We all know that India has a very large food supply chain, but a very inefficient one at that. So we have about 145 million farms, and farmers produce both the quantity and selection of SKUs based on their gut intuition and their historical experiences. They bring this produce to the market, and in the market, there are supply and demand dynamics. So if there's oversupply compared to the demand, the prices fall. And if there's less supply compared to the demand, the prices rise. Um, we also have a very layered supply chain. So by the time this reaches the end consumer, there's a lot of volatility in prices on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So this is called a supply-led supply chain. So the supplier decides what to produce, and then that goes to the demand, that is the consumer. This contributes negatively to all stakeholders. So, for example, the farmers don't have visibility of the demand, so hence uh, produce based on guts and intuition, like I said, and they face a lot of volatility in prices. So, from a earning perspective, there's a lot of volatility. If you come to the consumers also face a lot of volatility in prices and supply with respect to what the SKUs that they actually want. The environment also, there is a negative impact. So there is about 18 to 30% of food wastage because of a supply-led supply chain. Like I said, this is mostly due to a lack of visibility of the demand. Um, as I said, the supply chain is also fragmented. The multiple intermediaries add to this problem. Another additional problem that exacerbates this issue is the lack of storage and distribution facilities. So because of that, we're not able to meet supply and demand very efficiently, right? So this is where a player like Waycool comes in. So we want to topple this on its head and build a demand-driven supply chain. So what that means is that we are able to predict demand at a consumer level much in advance and pass it on to the farmers. So the farmers grow what is actually demanded by the consumers. Um, and we also provide advisory to the farmers. So in terms of regenerative and efficient agricultural practices, so that helps them increase their earnings and also decrease the volatility in those earnings. How we do this is we have collection centers very close to key farm clusters in the south and west of India. So we procure directly from farmers. We offer full transparency of prices, etc., to the farmers. And any value addition, for example, grading, packing, etc., is all moved uh, to the source. Uh, we also operate our own set of warehouses and transportation, which are highly automated, and a lot of cutting-edge shelf life extension technologies are used. Um, so this helps us reduce waste. The wastage is about 1% in our supply chain compared to 18 to 30% of uh, the supply-led supply chains that exist. Um, we have a sophisticated inventory and management planning tech, and we continuously optimize our delivery routes, so we are able to offer 98% fill rates. And in addition, we have our own set of profitable own brands because we understand the consumer very well, so we can produce differentiated and value-added products. But how we are able to do this is mostly because of our investments in technology. Um, so converting the supply-led into a demand-led supply chain requires investments in technology at each stage of the supply chain and then integrating all of them. So, Sensa is a Waycool enterprise that uh, has created the tech stack for us. So, we have a supply chain that mimics, we have a tech stack that mimics our supply chain. We have a farmer engagement platform where we can provide advisory and demand data to the farmer. We have a distribution management system. Uh, we also have a processing and warehouse automation platform, and finally a digital customer engagement platform. So here the whole is like more valuable than the sum of its parts. Just because we are able to capture data at each step and also share this information across the supply chain, like very efficiently. Um, so we use many machine learning and data science algorithms to predict demand. Again, which Sensa helps us do. We also take into account data points around perishability and seasonality, uh, because of which we are able to kind of predict demand much in advance. So, for example, we are able to understand the variety and quantity of rice that is sold at a pin code level in many regions. So this helps us plan better, transfer this demand to the farmer, and then reduce the total waste in the supply chain. So this is a little more about Waycool. So we operate direct supply chains for the categories that we operate. So we are into fresh produce, milk and value-added products, and grains and staples. So we buy all of this from the farmers, do any processing required. So we do grading and packing in fruits and vegetables. We do milling and packing in the staples products. We also have our own contract manufacturing facility, which is a state-of-the-art facility where we pack for our own brands as well as other brands. We also have value-added products in terms of buttermilk, paneer, curd, etc. Um, all this with deep consumer insights means that we can have a set of our own brands that stand out in the market. We operate brands in all of these categories. So we have deep penetration in South and the West of India. Um, and this is how we are able to kind of provide a full stack solution to our supply chain partners as well as our consumers. Um, that's all I have for you today in terms of demand-driven supply chain. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take it.
Okay, that's a short talk on subject. Okay. So if you wish, you can elaborate in more details.
Um, so maybe I go back. Yeah. So I can talk about some of our collection centers. We have collection centers around farm clusters around Bangalore, and we buy fresh produce from there. And we have also warehouses in different cities in the south of India, and we help distribute that to a lot of retailers and modern trade players across the regions that we operate. So we also have uh, other brands in fresh, like Charisma, which is a potato that has a low glycemic index, and we also have brands in a brand called All Fresh, which operates in Indian apples and Indian citrus. So we're able to bring this. So, for example, it's extremely seasonal. Indian apples are grown in Himachal Pradesh, and we make that accessible to many small cities in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc. Um, like we also supply to some customers that are there across India. For example, we supply many of our collection center vegetables to places like Agartala. Um, so we are like very deeply work deeply with farmers, and we are able to ensure that we can control shelf life, and we can supply to long distances and customers in an efficient manner.
Okay. So, you take the produce from the farmers from which all regions? I mean, one particular state or all over India?
So we buy from all over India. Depends particularly on the category and the type of produce. So, for example, potato we buy from Madhya Pradesh, UP, places like that. Regular vegetables we buy from the south. We also buy rice, etc., from places in the south. So, like we buy from all over India, but our supply is mostly in the south and west of India.
Okay. And you are located in Andhra?
No, so we are present all over South India.
Mm.
Um, uh,
Company is
and
located in?
company's headquarters is located in Chennai, but
Okay.
the company has operations all over South India.
Acha. Okay. Okay. So I'll now start taking some questions. Before that, we have Bhavya. If she wishes to ask any questions, Bhavya, you can unmute yourself or you can post in the chat box. Okay. So first question is, how can demand-driven value chains improve efficiency in the food and agriculture sector?
Yeah, so in the demand-driven value chain, you produce based on demand, right? So we try to predict demand, and if you are able to produce based on demand, um, supply can equal demand. Whenever there is a difference between supply and demand is when there is a lot of wastages, which is what happens in the supply-led supply chain. If we can match supply and demand as close as possible, then we can reduce waste in the supply chain. So um, that is how we can reduce wastage in the demand-led supply chain.
Okay. And what are the key challenges faced by traditional supply chains in the food and agriculture industry?
So one key challenge is the lack of visibility. So, like for example, uh, like visibility and information. A producer like the farmer or a trader in the market, they all have different pieces of information, but it never comes to one source, which is then relayed across the supply chain, right? So, for example, a consumer. Uh, we can predict the requirement of a particular SKU in a particular pin code, but that the local shopkeeper knows that very well, but that is not translated very easily back to the farmer. That is the key issue.
Okay. And how does understanding consumer demand help in reducing inefficiencies in the food and agri value chain?
So understanding the consumer demand deeply helps us predict what the demand is. So, like if we are able to understand at a particular point in time in the future, uh, what product and what quantity is consumed at a particular location, that can be aggregated, sent back to each player in the supply chain, and plan the supply chain very efficiently. That is one of the key advantages of understanding consumer demand. But there is also another uh, part where you can also understand consumer preferences and supply the required products. A lot of cases where uh, products that don't really have demand in a particular geography or a particular area is sent to that area. So this is mostly solved uh, post sending it. Like the understanding happens after sending it. So understanding consumer preferences helps in both of these problems.
Okay. And what role does technology play in optimizing demand driven value chains in agriculture?
Technology plays one of the most important roles. So, firstly, we will not be able to capture and aggregate all of the information that exists in the supply chain very efficiently without technology. That is one of the key benefits of technology. The second is in the movement of this information and in also ensuring that there is predictability across the supply chain, technology plays a very crucial role. Um, like, for example, a customer that is able to track an order, um, it gives him visibility and predictability. That is unfortunately not there in the traditional supply chains. Before a customer goes to the market, he doesn't know what produce is available at what price and what is the quality, things like that. So this is where technology can plays a crucial role.
Okay. And can you provide examples of successful implementations of demand-driven value chains in the food industry?
Yeah, so we are able to, like, for example, like Waycool. I'll take Waycool's example itself. We are able to predict demand for, let's say, a product like tomato. We are able, and we give this information to farmers. Farmers produce this tomato. We buy this produce from the farmers and then distribute them across businesses and our customers. So uh, the success here is that our wastage is about 1%. So in fact, sometimes even less than 1%, which is almost like the traditional supply chains have a wastage of about 18 to 30%. So that is the real success. There's also customer satisfaction because we are able to uh, predictably provide products to them, even though there are a lot of fluctuations in the actual market, things like that.
Okay. And one second. Yeah. What's how do demand-driven value chains contribute to reducing food waste in agriculture sector?
Yeah, so like I said, the food waste is see, agri produce is like mostly perishable, and considering the perishability combined with the lack of storage and distribution facilities, uh, if there is a mismatch between demand and supply, then there is going to be wastage in the traditional supply chain. So matching demand and supply is like very critical to reduce wastage. And the demand-led supply chain helps to match this supply and demand and hence reduce wastage.
Okay. And what strategies can be employed to align production with consumer demand in the food and agri value chain?
That is definitely not a simple problem. It's a very complex problem, and that's the reason we have invested heavily in technology. So I think like one of the only things that we can do is add a technology layer and capture as much information as possible at every part of the supply chain, including from a consumer point of view. And then predict demand for the future and pass it on to the producers.
Okay. And yeah, how can collaboration among stakeholders improve the effectiveness of demand-driven value chains in agriculture?
So in this, collaboration is key because again, one is on providing the information. The second is also consuming the information and making required changes. Um, so, for example, like, farmer has to accept the information and advisory that we provide and collaborate with us to produce the product, and then that is the real change that we can bring into this value chain. So, and hence collaboration is super important.
Okay. And what are the environmental benefits of adapting demand-driven approaches in the food and agriculture sector?
So for the environment, one of the key uh, uh, benefits is the reduction in waste, right? So since we are able to match supply and demand effectively, wastage is reduced, like from 18 to 30% to less than 1%, and that's a huge amount of reduction considering the scale of our economy. And this has downstream effects. You don't have to transport more material, so things like that. So if it's planned well, you can save a lot in terms of wastage at every level. So this is how the environment is benefited by demand-driven agriculture.
Okay. And what are the potential economic impacts of transitioning to demand-driven value chains in agriculture?
Okay. So I think I'll answer this question for every stakeholder. So firstly, for the farmer, there is reduced volatility of income. So this is because the prices uh, that the farmer can get at is going to be less volatile, which is because supply and demand are very much in balance. Um, this is also true for the consumer. The consumer also gets a like reduced volatility in terms of prices. So I think this is the major economic benefit. The second one is obviously lower wastage, because of which every stakeholder in the supply chain benefits.
Okay. Um, okay. So before we end, from our side, there is no further questions. Before we end, I'll check with Miss Bhavya once again.
Sure.
Miss Bhavya?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just
Oh,
listening.
oh, okay. 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 So, Mr. Deepak, before we end, can we just let us know a little bit about your career background and what made you to take an interest in agriculture field?
So I used to design offshore oil and gas platforms as for about 7 years, and then I did an MBA, and post which I joined Vehicle, found it very interesting, and had a very nice conversation with the founders, post which I joined Vehicle, and I've been with Vehicle for about 4 years now.
Okay. So, your educational background?
I am a mechanical engineer.
Acha. Okay. 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 And can you let us know about the name of your company, Vehicle? How your founders found this name, thought of
Um,
this name?
I am not very sure if this is accurate, but I think the initial hypothesis was that cold storage solutions would solve the agricultural problems in India,
Hmm.
and hence very cool was the name. But after uh, staying in the sector for some time, we understood that we needed deep interventions in both supply and demand.
Okay. Okay. Uh, 1 second. Okay, Mr. Deepak, I don't see any more questions from our participants. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for the short talk and answering all the questions. And we also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you.